What is going on, my friends? My name is Parker Andriese, DJ of 10 years and host of Behind the Energy podcast. I've been able to meet some pretty awesome people along the way, and we're bringing them on here to go behind the energy, sharing their stories, lessons learned, and shine light on some of their major milestones. If you're into DJing, the event industry, or entrepreneurship, I think you'll dig the show. I really appreciate you being here with me. Now that we've set the table, it's time to jump right in and get started with today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, party people, Justin Cornwall, Nick Nord, listeners, viewers, YouTube people, friends, welcome to Behind the Energy podcast. This is episode 60 and the last episode of season 3. A big old thank you and shout out not only for being here right now, but for those who have chimed in over the previous episodes and showed love in whatever capacity that may be. As I was prepping for this podcast, I was thinking how we really are ending season 3 on a bang, because we do have Justin Cornwall in the building right now.
Hey.
And just for full transparency, our friendship has been pretty short-lived. I didn't get to meet Justin until a couple months ago at the Hive Luncheon. That was, I believe, the first time we had a conversation.
It is, yes.
And you've been into Utah for some time, but a lot of your story not only goes back home to California, but across the country and touring, being in the music industry, and as an artist, and what that encompasses at touring as well, which I want to dive into. So for the listeners, a lot of this conversation is going to be my first time learning and discovering a lot of Justin's story, your story. Today, I know we've gotten kind of at a high level, brief overview, but based on my notes and what how well we've connected just in the past 3-4 months, I'm very much looking forward to this. So
yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Justin, I feel like an appropriate place to kick off the conversation is back to like middle school, high school days, and the influence of music and the cultures within those genres, how they've played role in shaping who you are, and your connection and love for what music brings you. That was a lot.
It is.
But perhaps, do you think
it's a good place to start?
Hand the baton off, and you can kind of paint that picture for me and the listeners?
Yeah, totally. So elementary school, didn't really listen to that much music outside of what my parents would give me. And then moving into middle school, mostly dad rock. And then discovering pop punk, lots of indie, got super, super into all of that. There's a band called Tally Hall. They're from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was super, super into them. They did weird YouTube videos. Their fan base was really, really strong, and I just dove into that fan base, and I really, really enjoyed it. There's a message board. They eventually started a street team that I was heavily involved in. I was one of the only people in California doing it. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I reminded me of MySpace. Did they ever feature one of their tracks? As one of? Oh, did they really? Okay.
Yeah, they used to wear colored ties. They were pretty easy to spot. But check them out, Tally Hall. They've been broken up for a while. But
please continue.
I got into the message board, fan base, fan club, street team. They eventually got they got signed by Atlantic Records, which was a pretty big deal for this little indie band. And what happened, which I hadn't really ever seen because I had zero music industry experience, the record label absorbed their street team and wanted to use that to its full utility. And so I was just kind of on the sidelines. I was 17, 18 years old, briefly involved with that. Then the band got shelved, but I stayed in touch with all these Atlantic Records reps that would send me promo materials or assign me to go to shows, stuff like that. And they were looking for a junior member of their team in LA for all of Atlantic Records, pop rock, street marketing. And so I got hired onto that kind of right near the end of high school. And that kept me pretty busy, got me really interested in working in music. I got to go to a ton of shows. I would meet a ton of bands. And little sidebar, I did my sophomore year of high school in Riverton. I got
1 year, a single year here in Riverton.
I got sent to the farm, literally, because I was getting into trouble. And when I was a baby, we lived there and we have family friends. I didn't have a car. I made friends with someone who had a car. We'd come up to Kilby Court every weekend.
Oh my God.
To see bands. I made friends with a lot of those bands. So then I moved back to California. The stuff with Atlantic Records happens. Those bands moved from Utah to California to try and make it big. And they don't really know anyone involved in the music world except for me.
And our friend Justin Cornwall from Kilby. Real quick, were you playing any instruments or spinning at all?
I was kind of DJing house parties. I was figuring out that I liked to do that. But didn't really get into gigging until like the end of my senior year in high school. But before I even started gigging that often, those bands that moved to California, I reconnected with them and they all started to want to go on tour. So instead of, going to college or going on a mission or anything like that, I had the opportunity to go on tour and make almost no money doing merch for these bands. But the experience eventually led to production manager, tour manager, all these bigger things. It took a very long time, but like to have that experience from 18 to 23, 24 years old of just like hitting the road, helping however I could was super formative.
That, I guess that offer to go tour and then build that experience and those skill sets, I imagine that came very quickly though. Once the stars aligned and, get, the right conversations, the right people to build out a tour. I imagine, the offer to do that and get on board and then get on the road was pretty quick. With your experience with Atlanta Records and being involved in the street teams, is that something you had you desired to go out and do, or did you just kind of like jump in the fire, if you will?
I had always thought it would be really cool. I just never really knew the opportunity, like how to find that opportunity. But I also didn't know how to find the opportunity with all the marketing stuff with the record label. And it just kind of came up naturally. They had been talking about needing to take someone, and I was just always hanging out, always going to shows. And I was like, I think I could do that. And so, they took me on the road, and between high school and the touring on the side, I'm starting to DJ house parties because I think it's really fun. I like dance music. It was just like the iTunes top 20 on the electronic board that I would
primarily house parties and such.
Lots of house parties, up in Santa Clarita, California. I used to haul a Mac Mini and a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse and plug stuff into the back so I could get it into an RCA jack. And I would do that for lots of house parties and even a couple of venues. And I used to look like a crazy person hauling all that stuff. And eventually got like a little Vestax controller that broke after like 6 months. So I duct tape part of it, but it would also come to like established nightclubs and set that up on top of their equipment and get side-eye from the resident DJs.
I know the feeling.
And eventually one of the residencies had CDJs. And so I would be able to come in early and like mess with that. So
started getting a little experience here and there.
Yeah. Because when I was kind of done with the touring, those bands were all taking breaks to do albums. I wanted to keep myself busy within music, and so I found a couple parties that I really liked and became a regular and found out who ran them. And one of them was looking for an intern on their mailing list, so went out for that, got hired onto that. That really got me into like a ton of LA events and working on these big like after parties and concerts and festivals. And just like a really well-rounded experience. And then on the side of all that, continuing the DJing, and as it'll happen that they need an opener here or someone canceled, so they need someone to fill in, and just kind of compiling that and then compiling a network. And it took a really long time to do. And so many like different events, like from weddings to like Mad Decent Block Party. Like we did everything, but it was all a really,
polar opposite.
It was a really good event, or really good experience. Yeah.
Real quick, I want to take a step back to touring. I imagine the nature of your role and multiple roles encompassed quite a bit. Can you give the listeners perhaps a really fun or eye-opening takeaway in your experience being on the road and helping facilitate these shows and being a part of them?
So with the bands that I was working with at the level that they were at, when you have a bigger tour, you have tour manager, merchandise manager, lighting director, A1, A2, like the whole thing. When I'm going in a 12-passenger van with 2 bands, it's just like, okay, we have Justin, and he's going to do a lot of stuff. They would usually handle all the sound and all that, but just like the merch, the settlement, working when they had to do press, stuff like that. And so it was like a cool, well-rounded experience to kind of see different facets of it. But it was definitely like really difficult. Like it's not all it's cracked up to be, especially at that level of touring when you are all in a van and half of the shows they're playing to the bartenders and like it can get pretty rough. I don't know. It was just a lot to take in, but it gave me a really good peek into like what I could eventually be doing in the future, and it helped me narrow down like where I wanted to focus my skill set. And that's why I haven't been on the road in 5-6 years.
There's some perspective.
Partially because the opportunities kind of dry up after a while. With any type of gigging, it's going to be fruitful and then nothing, just kind of ebb and flow. But I like focusing my energy more in one place, kind of perfecting that, doing that. I would tour again if the opportunity came up, whether myself playing parties, because I did a lot of that, or working for somebody else. I would definitely consider the opportunity again.
Looking back, coming back from tour, did you have clarity on how you wanted to move forward in the music industry? You began, playing more shows and playing more parties, but did you have, I guess, a more clear direction, having had that experience, gotten back home?
Honestly, no. It's all been so fluid throughout the years, and it kind of showed me. Yeah, I guess it did kind of show me what I didn't want to get into. I know the people that always took it like super, super serious and never really vibed with, and then the people who just kind of went with the flow always had way better experiences with. And so just seeing like the different types of personalities that are in the music world, I aligned a lot more with this side compared to that side. And so I just started to focus on making more of those relationships. You're always going to run into those kind of cold people because usually they're the ones with all the money and make all the decisions. But it like helped me see what type of camp I wanted to be involved with. And in a lot of ways that meant kind of having to start my own little crew of people I would want to work with. But yeah, getting back from the touring, then I would just work on these event teams, and the DJing started stacking up quite a bit, and just building relationships with artists on one end of the spectrum, and then being able to come back to that relationship years later as a DJ was always a really cool thing to do.
So. A little more full circle. You mentioned the word crew in prepping for the show and notes and conversation. I think crew and community, your team is perhaps a big component of your story, time in California, touring, and now being here in Utah. Talk to me and the listeners a little bit about your time coming back, earning residencies and building out that community, building out that crew. What was the next chapter in your story? What did that look like?
So at the end of my California days, about 4 years ago, at the time, I didn't really have this crew that I had always wanted. I had gotten myself to a really successful point. I was touring parties. I was playing huge festivals, stuff like that, but I was pretty isolated, and it was definitely like a big ego thing for me. And I wanted to work with other people, but I thought I was better than them and this whole thing. And I came to realize like, that's not going to work. That's what I used to look at in the past and be like, I don't want to be like that. And so once I moved out here for lots of reasons, but mostly to get a reset on life. When I came out here, I looked around and I kind of had that same mentality of, I'm up here, I can do this and this and this. And then tried to work with people on that wavelength, and it wouldn't work, because taking a step back, it's like, that's ridiculous. You're brand new. Like, who's going to want to do anything with anyone that is just putting themselves up here? So I took a step back for a while and just like looked at how I knew how to make these things happen, or like what I needed to do. And it all started with just like communication and community. And I don't have like a tight crew, so to speak. I do a lot of my stuff autonomously, you know, the marketing, the booking, stuff like that. I kind of just take care of it myself. And what I mean by crew is more of just like your broad circle of friends that you work with. There's so much more. The results are so much better when you just collaborate, and you'll get this crew, and all they want to do is beef, or, you know, this crew did this first, or this crew is specifically only doing underground or something like that. And it's like, if you just work together, you always get way better results. And so kind of establishing myself here.
I feel like there's a lesson there though.
What?
I feel like, was there an incident or two in your life, or a situation where you kind of had that realization? Because it sounds like I can relate to this, because I feel like I've been able to see both ends of the spectrum there. Was there a situation or a moment in your time as an artist and working in this industry where you kind of had that realization? Or has it just been developed over time? And
It's something that's always been in the back of my head, and just seeing the pitfalls that it can cause other people to work in the other direction has really like fortified where I stand with collaboration and community. Anytime that like an opportunity fell through or anything like that, it was usually just came down to me, some mistake that I had made or whatever. But, you know, building a little community, a little family, you now have people you can bounce those ideas off of, and you can really kind of craft your way a lot more tactfully by taking in feedback, taking in other people's experiences, and just going forward with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was curious if there's something. I feel like perhaps there may be a little bit more juice that I could squeeze out of there.
If it comes up, I'll let you know.
So, roughly 4 years ago here in Utah, with this mindset of collaboration, having quite a few years of experience doing some very unique things with some really awesome opportunity, approaching this new location and resetting, paint that picture of the first year or two here in Utah. What were the goals? What was the mindset? What did that look like?
So once I moved here, when I moved here with no car, no job. I moved in with like a childhood best friend.
Same friends from River?
No, he was like from Orange County when I was little guy.
Okay.
And we've just stayed in touch over the years, and being nice, he always said, if you ever need a place to crash, just let me know. And after dealing with a bunch of stuff I had to deal with in California, and like a really toxic relationship, stuff like that, I gave him a call, and he said, sure, come on out. So I got here. I took a couple weeks just to myself to find the job, to get my bearings, kind of figure out where I was in Salt Lake. I was in Sugar House, but with all the grids, it's kind of takes a minute to learn. And then I decided to start going out. I knew that there was a really good electronic scene here. I knew the indie rock scene was phenomenal because of those bands I had worked with, but I'd always seen the flyers of the V2 events or the festivals that happen out here, and knew that there could be some good opportunities. So yeah, I started going to shows. The first show I went to was Snake Hips in 2019 at Soundwell. Wow. And I'm playing with them in a few months. Yes. So that's super cool.
Yes. Gotta highlight that. He's got a show. April 14th? 14th? There's a very good possibility this may be out by then. So
okay. Keep an eye out for that one.
Gotta highlight and plug that real quick.
I knew a few people very distantly from Facebook over the years, because I would stop in Salt Lake on these other tours, and once I was able to do a Salt Lake Twilight after party, that's just sick. Here and there, just kind of working that mass of friends that some of us have on Facebook, and was kind of connected to those people, and then tried to reconnect with them when I was here. And some of them weren't doing music anymore, some of them just kind of were, so it wasn't as helpful as I thought it would be to start gigging out here. So I just did my homework, and I identified who all the big promoters were, and I knew that I wanted to work with V2, LNE, SNS, be involved however, and because of my experience doing the street team and just kind of doing whatever and being dedicated to it and seeing how that scaled into a job and then a career working in LA, I was like, okay, well, let's just start at the bottom here. And I signed up for V2's like street team ticket takers at the Saltaire.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if you took one of my tickets over the years.
Yeah, probably.
That's dope. Or handed out a flyer coming out afterwards.
I did 2 events for them, and then right away, Courtney over at V2, who's amazing, was just like, what is your resume exactly? Because I would kind of take direction with the teams or just know how to do certain things and offer to help others. And she connected me with Ian, and then through that, I kind of got little viewpoints into how to connect with L&E and SNS and all these people. And what I love about Salt Lake is everybody's willing to try working with you, and having the homework to do it helps, but I've seen them happy to work with anybody, which I think is super cool. You really don't see that in California or LA for that matter. People here are much more receptive and like willing to collaborate, which I think makes the scene so much better. I
was definitely curious, and again, in just prepping and seeing opportunities for more conversation, differences between your experience having lived in California and here in Utah. It sounds like the openness to collaborate and support each other has been one of the bigger differences. You mentioned the word farm earlier, kind of jokingly, but anything else that really stands out?
I mean, Salt Lake is great because it is such a smaller pond. There's so many opportunities for you to get in and get a show and meet all these people. In LA, there's just such a high bar to overcome to even get your foot in the door with a club or a venue or a promoter. And they're always just working with their friends and stuff like that, which it's like good to work with your friends, but it just becomes like an exclusivity thing. And I got super lucky. Those production teams I worked on were very, very well connected. And so I was able to get a lot of traction in LA, but it did take a lot of work and just playing empty bars. And I would get one good gig maybe every like 3 or 4 months at the beginning. And out here, it's just like, if you can maintain your worth to the fans and to the promoters and keep your integrity and stay chill, like there's so much to do here. Whereas in California, you get the small window where you can prove yourself and do it. And, 75% of the time, that's all people ever get. And it can be really discouraging. But, I never gave up. I've had way more no's in my life than yeses. But that doesn't stop me. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Having volunteered and done some work with V2 then opened the door to, I guess, more responsibilities and opportunities with working with them. Can you kind of, pick up where we left off in terms of your story? Yeah.
So I was working a bunch with V2, and they had me get a little more involved on like the artist relations, hospitality side, advancing a little bit. And that went really well, and it kind of showed me, they would talk about so-and-so at L&E or so-and-so at SNS, and so I kind of knew who to reach out to work with, and I've been able to consistently work with all the bigger promoters out here, and I just, people ask me how to get into it, and I just say, be chill and show up and do a good job. And the amount of support I've received like back from all that hard work with each group or whatever project I'm working on it's been reciprocated, which is like the best feeling ever. They're willing to give more opportunities if you're willing to do good for them. And in contrast to California, it's like, that doesn't really happen. And so just like small lake city is alive and well, and all these people are cool, and the bad ones usually weed themselves out pretty quickly from what I've seen in just like the last 4 years. Just if it's a bad vibe or it's not going to work out for someone, they usually will excuse themselves. And I think Salt Lake it like really maintains this good energy across the board with all genres. And it's super refreshing, and I love it.
I want to take a moment, just you used the term all genres. Justin, for the listeners, paint a picture of your style behind the decks.
Sure. So my like wheelhouse is definitely early 2000s or like indie remix stuff. That's what I started DJing. That's what I still like to DJ. That translated into just a really good toolkit for house music. But over the years, I've been a resident DJ at the Standard Hotel in downtown LA when that was a thing. They've closed down. But I was able to go play the Standards in New York, the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs, Saguaro Hotel in Palm Springs. And all these different places, they'd want different things. So, sometimes it's hip hop night, sometimes it's play whatever you want for 4 hours. So like having the experience of all these different residencies and just sometimes not even a residency, trying to make $200 in Hollywood, you have to go DJ some dive bar, just play rap, kind of built all these different styles into me of knowing how to DJ the different genres. And it comes in really handy sometimes, out here.
1000%.
I'm doing a Black Void party and I can come play a bunch of aggressive bass music. It's like, hell yes. And it's really fun. But like, if it's my go-to, it's usually going to be in the vein of like kind of weird tech house, bass house music. But knowing how to do these other genres, it's fun to toss that in there and
layer it in a little splash or spice every now and then.
Yeah, I like to stay on top of like current music. I always check my promos and stuff like that. So anytime I can bring in some new sounds or newer tracks, I like to do that. But there's definitely like the 200, 300 song playlist of like staples that I will cycle through forever. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's some great insight. I'm starting to build out a new library and record box, and I feel like ideally I'd love to perfect it. But that's just not how it's going to work. And so insight on how people approach their libraries.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been maintaining my iTunes library since I was like 14.
Hell yeah.
And then getting that from computer to computer is such a headache, but
yeah,
you can do it. It just takes a while.
Dude, now at the cloud, it makes it very convenient.
That's true.
When I got this puppy, it was like I didn't even have to transfer anything because it was already saved to the cloud. But we're going off down a little tangent here. Before we pick up, I guess more so in the last year here in Salt Lake here in Utah in your career, Justin, any other I guess super exciting events or shows that you've been able to play and or be a part of?
I mean, it's all exciting, but yeah,
stand out that one you're never going to forget. You're very proud of. Or
I mean, the one that always comes back to me as best set ever was, I believe, 2 years ago. I played with Phantoms at Soundwell.
I wanted to go to that show, bro. Oh, damn.
I had people, you asked me, so I don't want to ring my bell too hard, but I had people DMing me the next day, like, we drove from Colorado to see Phantoms and you killed it. You did so good. And it was just like the best feeling. Someone messaged me like I was having a terrible week and didn't really want to go out, and I decided to come to the show, and your set like totally brought me out of it. And that was cool. And one thing I love and respect about the promoters out here is you can go a while without a gig, but it's because they are very meticulous about making sure it's a good fit. They're trying to make these lineups cohesive, and that's something that's absolutely missed in other markets. They'll just put on whoever. So
dude, I needed to hear that.
It was a good show.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
sometimes I get frustrated.
That is sick as hell.
It was really cool. Thanks, man.
For people to be giving you that feedback, having never met you, that is beautiful. And another topic I want to get to here in just a moment in terms of beauty in connection in music. I think that's probably an appropriate place to end in the conversation. But God, dude, Phantoms. I was singing "Been Here Before" as I was washing my hands in the bathroom.
Yeah, they're great.
45 minutes ago, and they're so funny on social media.
They are. Yeah.
If you don't follow them on social media, and you like some really chill, what would you call that? Like,
it's just like very tasteful, chill electronic.
Yes.
But some of their older stuff's a lot heavier. They have like a Bingo Players remix and stuff. But the current stuff is very in the same vein as like Flight Facilities mixed with Poolside, and it's very chill. It's good though. I love it.
You need some good energy. Phantoms. That is dope, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah.
it'd be fun to, get some of your DJ friends and like write a list of some of the really cool shows you've played or people you've opened for and just trade stories. Maybe that's what a little more of season 4 looks like. Who knows? Okay, so Justin, now let's talk more recent time here in Utah and working in the industry, the back end of shows and even being the one on stage at shows as well, whether that be headlining or, support for touring artists. Reach Entertainment is one of the other, I guess you could say, companies that's been making big waves from what I've collected in the past few months. And from what I'm understanding is that you are a team member, a part of all that they are. Can you give me more context and the listeners more context of what that is, how that came to be?
Sure. I got brought on about 2 months ago as a partner and director of business development / operations for Reach Entertainment. I connected with Billy Hines, who is the guy behind it all. Actually just through like the Rave Utah Facebook group. He had made a post like 6 months ago looking for someone to help with marketing. And I had pinged him and kind of really didn't hear anything back. And he was working with some people that didn't work out and eventually circled back to me and we jumped on Zoom and connected right away. He has a really concise vision of what he wants to execute. And he brought me on board and, a decade of all these different veins of experience has come into a really good place with everything he's having me doing because I'm helping with the booking, I'm helping with the operations of the show, the advancing, all that. So it's been like a great experience so far, and it's fun for me to be able to exercise these muscles I haven't for a while. And his first series, or Reach's first series, was up in Park City during Sundance. They had Cut Snake, Kyle Walker, Dombreski, and West End, and just bringing this like higher level, tasteful house music to intimate venues in Park City. Seems like a no-brainer, but it hadn't really been done prior. They had Park City Live, but that was more of like a big nightclub experience.
And that was a couple of years ago. That was, I think the last show I saw there was probably Deadmau5.
Okay.
And that was a couple of years ago when Park City Live was doing, that was the venue that they were hosting these at.
Right.
But,
So these first ones were at Downstairs, and they all went really well. I think they all sold out but one. And then we're going to get back up into Park City in March. We have Sheba Son, Miha, and Chet Porter. The Chet Porter show's on my birthday, and I'm going to DJ on that one, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And then just between now and then, we're going to have some other pop-ups, but we're going to focus on doing well-executed series with artists that either rarely play out here or make a lot of sense to be putting in like an alternative venue or up in Park City, something like that. But it's very exciting, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of.
Jeez, very well spoken, my friend.
Thanks.
My God. Just, my friend, would it be safe to call you an entrepreneur?
I think in some ways
that's accurate in some capacity. I mean, in many ways, I feel like you kind of design your day, your goals, your agenda. Growing as an artist, and also like tour manager, stagehand. What are the other roles that I'm missing right now? Lead director in marketing.
Associate producer, lead producer, not on music, on events, merchandise manager, stage manager, all over the place. And it is, and you meet other people in the industry that have a similar skill set and just kind of can throw onto whatever type of job. And I like it a lot. And I always kind of think forward, like, what do I want to be doing in 10 years? Like, if I had to really narrow it down, and probably, it could be cool to go back on the road as a tour manager, because when I was younger, I would meet these tour managers that were just like the tour dads, and they're usually a bit older, but they really have their shit together. And I think I could get to a point of doing that. But I try not to think too far ahead, because it freaks me out. And in this line of work, it really is it's stuff in the short term. Not to say that I don't have like long-term goals or plans, but with work and stuff like that, I kind of just look at what's right ahead.
I can understand that, get behind that. I guess where I was going with that is, given we've talked at a very high level about your story growing in this industry over the past 30 or so minutes. I want to dive in a little bit more in terms of your personal experience. Justin, do you mind sharing like what's been one of their bigger challenges in this very unique, flexible, ever evolving industry? I feel like there's got to be a lot of value there, insight for people, listeners that may want to get involved in some capacity.
Yeah, the personal stages of growth like that I've been having to deal with all of this, or not deal with, but kind of grow with, is like self-confidence is a huge one. You can't be too hard on yourself about things. Like if someone says no, just understanding that's not the end of it. With music and all that, and something I've ran into dozens of times, that it's been something I've worked on for the last 10 years, is like just the party scene that can really suck you in and derail things for a while. But that's not all there is to it. And a lot of people think that's what it is, like getting into DJing or events. It's like, oh, you're just partying all the time. Like, what is it like backstage, this and this and this? And it like can be what everybody's thinking it is, but it's not sustainable, and it will tear you down really fast unless you're already at a level where you can just do that forever. But yeah, I don't know. I've changed a lot as a person over the years, and especially since moving here, just really prioritizing, like being selective of who I surround myself with and who I'm giving my time and energy to. There have been phases where it's like, okay, I'm just going to put everything I have into this, like no matter what. And I've learned that for me, that's not the best. You want to be committed to these projects. You want to really give it a good go, but you also need to like make time for yourself. And does that make sense?
It does.
And yeah, my identity has been consumed of being this DJ event person for so long. I never really, things were going so consistently and so fast for so long, I didn't really have a chance to step back and like
breathe,
look at who I am. Yeah. How has this shaped me? How have these broken friendships or new friendships or toxic relationships like really formed me? I never really stopped to analyze that up until I moved out here, because I just like was so caught up in the grind or the hustle or whatever, that taking time for myself has really become a priority. And I think it's something a lot of people mean well to do, and they say that they're doing it and self-care and all that, but it can get really lost, with how busy this industry can be.
What does that look like for you?
Saying no to stuff,
Okay.
That's something I've really had to like figure out how to do, because you do want to take every gig, because you never know which person you meet on that one's going to lead to the next one or connect you to this. But it's like, if you can maintain a plateau of like good work and good connection with people, you don't need to say yes to everything. And some people can, but I can't. And I've had to learn like to stay my best, like mentally, physically, all that. Like you got to take these breaks, and just like, yeah, I don't know. I respect the hustle, but you need to take breaks for sure.
Take the brakes, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean further into that. There's got to be another way or two in which you are prioritizing yourself, whether that be mentally or physically or emotionally with your closer relationships. Yes, saying no will provide you more time.
Right.
But how do you then utilize that for yourself?
I just try to relax. It sounds silly, but that's not something I've been familiar with since I was like 18, 19 years old.
Doesn't sound silly at all.
So just like trying to unplug, leave the phone on do not disturb, stuff like that. Been trying to get back into video games. It sounds I don't know. It's relearning a lot because I was so sucked into it. I'm just
crazy.
like not paying attention to anyone else or anything, or not paying attention to my own relationships, realizing how they're detrimental to me or how I'm detrimental to them. And having these last 4 years to just be like, all right, pause as much as you can, take a look at everything. But I mean, yeah, I'm still in the process of figuring out who exactly I am. I know what I like. I know that I like to help other people. I know that like connecting the dots in the industry is the most satisfying thing for me. So through these last 4 years of really getting to do that and having these great opportunities to do that, it's helping me like brush away the dust on what I'm about and at my core who I am. And it's been quite the process, but like I recommend therapy and I recommend, journaling, stuff like that. I'm really happy with where I'm at right now, and things like go up and down, but what has been most valuable lately is taking those like intentional pauses to say no, and to just whether you're just staying at home or you're taking that time to support other people, by going to their shows or whatever. It can be really fulfilling. But I think a lot of people get the notion that like all it is this nonstop grind, and it definitely is at times, but you need to learn how to like regulate that. So yeah.
I've noticed just like a common theme in these conversations, being interested in how guests like yourself maintain balance in this industry. 'Cause I'm still trying to crack the code for that and figure that out. But I like your use of the term relearning. Relearning like what brought you joy when you were younger. And
yeah, totally. And I think one thing that keeps me stuck in all of this, well, not stuck, but just doing it, is music. Like, it's such a huge part of my life. My great-grandpa conducted the Mormon Tabernacle Choir for 23 years. So my dad and his dad, super, super musical. I went the other way from church music and all that to electronic, but it's still like very important to me.
A little different, bro.
A little different. But if you think about my great-grandpa conducting the Tabernacle Choir, I mean, he's up on a podium. There's a big crowd.
Yes.
He's waving his hands around. I do that sometimes.
Yes.
So they should be proud.
Yes, 1,000%. I guess just musically.
That's the coolest comparison I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, that is badass.
That's cool.
That is awesome. Facilitating that energy and connecting with people.
Yeah. And in those reprieves, when I am taking a break, it's like, when's the last time you sat down to listen to an album front to back with no ulterior motive?
It's been a minute, man.
It's been a minute. And so doing that and just taking time for that has been like really nice. I'm not looking for tracks for my next set or like trying to find a remix of this or that, but like doing what I did when I was younger and just like get that new album and enjoy it. And
God, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing back memories.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. This is my reminder to take the time to listen to an album of Mac or something. God, bro. I remember like literally specific CDs, specific albums that I would listen to front to back because I would put forth that time and I didn't get caught up in the hustle and bustle and all that stuff. Justin, my friend, this podcast is as much as it's aimed to focus and share your story and some of the learning lessons and milestones you've come across. It's also aimed at providing learning opportunities or things to consider for people jumping into this industry and starting their new chapter as a DJ, as a musician, or maybe that's as a a tour manager. Pretty open ended. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners right now that you've come to find to be valuable
one of
your life?
The biggest things that resonates with me is if you never ask, the answer is always no, and that can be a little daunting at times to ask, but at the end of the day, so many of the decisions made, especially on like a local, regional level of music, so many things. It's one person deciding yes or no. And so you just need to get out there and be friendly and stay at the forefront of these people's minds. And So much of it comes down to just being genuine and getting out there. Like, you can't expect all this stuff from someone who's never even met you, you know? So just like trying to build genuine connections. That's the number one piece of advice. I get DMs sometimes from like DJs that are trying to make it work. And I always tell them, you know, figure out where you want to play and become a regular there. And you'll eventually meet someone who's involved and just take it from there. And if you can like keep a cool vibe and be chill, it'll most likely work out for you. So yeah, just be chill.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that. I'm taking that one with me, so thank you.
Good.
I'm starting to also realize this, Nick Nord, that I'm taking more golden nuggets from these podcasts episodes more than probably some listeners here. But Justin, my friend, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Where can the people find you in the digital space?
Sure. I should be most active on SoundCloud, but because I'm primarily a DJ, it's going to be over on Instagram. It's What Justin on Instagram, Justin Cornwall on Facebook, Justin Cornwall on SoundCloud, Mixcloud. Yeah, you can find me out there. Just look up my name, Justin Cornwall, and DJ, and something will pop up.
Rock on. Look for the jumpsuit.
Yep.
Styled jumpsuit, baby.
Yep.
One last little way to wrap up not only the episode, but also the season and continue this exciting momentum into the new year, because today is January 30th, 2023. Anything you're particularly excited for in the next 6 months or year?
That Full Circle show with Snake Hips is going to be great. Birthday show, Chet Porter, March 25th. Come out to that. I can't really talk about it that much right now, but some opportunities with festivals, more so working on the back end that I'm really excited about. But if you follow along on any of those accounts, you'll see what's up pretty soon. So, yeah.
Well, I'm following. If you're not following, now's your opportunity to follow. And then seriously, a absolute huge thank you to everyone who's jumped in the new journey of Behind the Energy podcast. Nick Nord, it's crazy, dude. We've done 60 of these episodes. I love you. I appreciate you.
Love you, babe.
It's kind of bananas. Anyways, muchos gracias. I'm not going to say I'll see you next week for another episode, because we've got a lot of exciting things in the pipeline that are not podcast specific, but perhaps when we return to season 4, there's going to be some exciting updates in the world of DJing and music and all the joys that brings. So, muchos gracias, my friends. This has been a real one with Justin Cornwall. Until next time, hasta la vista. Peace.
That is a wrap. Thank you for listening and going behind the energy with me. If you loved it, thumbs up it. You can follow me on social media at Parker Andriese, and check us all out at bringingtheenergy.com. As for now, we are signing off, and I'll catch you next week for another episode. Peace.